Hey there, I'm Ken Carson, one of the owners at Xybix, and we're in Morgan County, Alabama, in their remodeled 911 center, and we're gonna play around with getting Jeannie here set up in her best ergonomic position at the new console. It's important to learn how to do this so you can get yourself in that best position, most comfortable position throughout the day, because what that does is it leads to just a healthier lifestyle throughout the month, throughout the year, throughout your career. If we can do a little bit each day, that adds up to a lot. In 5 years, hopefully your body's in a better position. You're not hobbling around or slouching too much because you've made that the habit, which is the bad habit. So we'll get started here, and I'll show you, Jeannie will get you all set up. So what we're going to start with first here is going to be your keyboard surface. And what we're looking for here is about, did you ever play piano as a kid?
I did.
Yeah. So we're going to be about that same position. So instead of adjusting the piano bench, we can adjust this work surface just like you're doing there. And we want about a 90-degree bend in your elbow. And yep, that's looking pretty good to the keyboard itself, not just to the surface, but to the keyboard itself. And we're also looking for a neutral wrist alignment, which means it's just like this. We don't want it going down, and we don't want it going up. So that would be a little low because you're starting to get the wrists going back like that. So let's run it back up a little bit. Right about there looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to run it down just a tiny bit. That's a good starting point for your wrists, your arms, and then your shoulders. So everything's just in a comfortable position. Your shoulders aren't hunched. We work our way down. Your elbows are open. You got blood flow through them, and your wrists are straight. You got blood flow through those also. Now the harder part here is going to be our monitor surfaces and our monitors. So we're going to try to do is set those up. The tricky part now is almost everybody out there has 2 rows of monitors. And what that means is we're going to have to get this a little bit lower than we have traditionally in the past with 1 row of monitors. So if we want to play around with that, now what we're going to look for, typically if I had 1 row of monitors, we're going to go out straight out from your eye and then down about 15 to 20 degrees. So that's usually the top quarter of the screen. But with 2 monitors, we're going to have to try to find that happy medium. Now, one thing you can do is always have your primary, most used screens on that bottom row and then your secondary. So your map could be up there. Your camera could be up there, so you're not referencing too much. So what we want to minimize is the tilting back of the head, and we don't want to have you looking up like this. And 2 things there, I don't want you bending your neck, all right? And then I also don't want your eyes having to cheat and look up all the time, because that can wear your eyes out quickly. You can feel that at the end of the day. So let's lower this down some. I think what we're going to look for is to get your eyes about the cross of the bottom quarter of the upper screens, and then that'll give you some of your 15 to 20 degree. Now that 15 to 20 degree comes up because that's our natural vision line when we're just walking around. That's where our eyes automatically fall. So we want that. That's what God designed us for, so we want them to be in the most comfortable position there. So looking here, I think we're looking pretty good. I'm going to lower these down just a little more. Now this is a nice thing about the dual surface station versus a single surface station. It does have better ergonomics, and we can get these lower than we can on a traditional single surface station. So we can get these down here. Now, a lot of times people look at this and think this is an unusual setup, but when I walked you around your room here a little while ago, 2 of the 5 people here had this surface lower, so this is actually a great setup for you here. Next, Jeannie, is going to be focal depth adjustment, and this is just your personal preference. I'm not going to be able to tell you about where you want it. This is just where your eyes, where they want to be. So we can move everything back and forth simultaneously about where you want it. Now there's a couple things you can do in addition to this is the font on your screens, making sure that's the right size. So you need to be able to talk to your CAD vendor and your phone vendor and see if you can customize your screen to your eyes in the best location. Another nice thing is to have glasses made just for work, for this distance. So this distance is set by the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society, and they want the screens to be about 19 inches from your eyes back to 29. So the depth, that then dictates the depth of the actual keyboard surface. So this is kind of going to the nitty-gritty, the design of the furniture and how we do it at Xybix. We go through the Human Factor Ergonomic Society and we design our furniture around that because we believe that ergonomics is one of the big puzzle pieces for overall health in the 911 center, and making sure everything fits is very important. So too deep of keyboard surfaces, and then the screens are starting to get too far back. So our keyboard surface is 18 inches. We've got that extra inch of clearance for fingers, and then your screen's all the way up front, right about that 19 inches, and then they want 10 inches of focal depth adjustment. So a lot of times I see most people have them closer than further away, but you've got the ability to get set up just right for each person. Well, now We're gonna have some fun with this. We're going to have you stand up. Very similar setup to sitting. And the important part here of the standing is that you've got the ability to go up high enough with the actual mechanism and the surface itself. So we've got you here pretty close to where you before. And then the same thing, I'm gonna lower this down just a little bit. So what we're gonna do is look and see where our numbers are, 97 and 103, and we have your similar settings for the sitting position. And then you can just write those down somewhere, memorize them. Dispatchers are great at memorizing stuff, especially numbers. And then you can get yourself set up time after time in that best correct position. So we're gonna talk about the reclining position, which actually is not in the Human Factors in Ergonomic Society, but it is in reality, especially in a 24/7 center like this. We know people like to kind of stretch out a little bit. The taller people, like over there, they need room to have their legs. So we've got plenty of leg room underneath here. And do you use the foot pedals?
Yes.
Okay, so you got your foot pedals. So if you're gonna stretch out a little bit, let's figure out your best place to put those. You just kind of scooch those around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so get in your best reclining position here. Get yourself kind of in that comfortable recliner there. And see, I think you've actually done a good job with it. This keyboard surface, you've got kind of nice flow of the arms, you've got straight wrists, everything's lining up. I'm always trying to think, what's the blood flow back and forth through your system? And we're trying not to kink stuff off and minimize that. I want to always have fresh blood coming through. So let's play around. There you go. Now you've got the monitor surface. So we're gonna run that down pretty darn low. So after the reclining position, like I said, it's not necessarily recommended by the Human Factors Ergonomic Society, but we know it happens. But you gotta play around with this. All the numbers over here that we've set you up at aren't these absolute numbers. There's always a range within that, depending how you're feeling that day. So thank you for watching this video on ergonomics, and thank you, Jeannie, for being my victim here. And hopefully some people watch this and learn from what we talked about and get set up in the best position. It is a little tricky, so if you got questions about us, hit us up here at Xybix. We're happy to help.